Hi, I'm John Ficarra. Welcome to Ficarra Classic, and welcome back to the garage here at Wingnut Manor. I am sitting in my wife's Volkswagen Thing. So this is new to the garage. Actually, it's not new to us. It's been in storage for a while, but we had to make room in the garage to get working on it for the summer. And when the wife wants a car done, you get it done. So we finished the 911E. That has been sold to a fantastic new owner down in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we brought the Thing in out of storage and we're getting it going. Now, if you don't know what the heck a Thing is, Volkswagen Things were sold in the United States from 1973 to 1974, although they were built from 68 through, I think, 1980. They were an extension of the very cool and very famous Kubelwagen, which was the German version of a Jeep in World War II. And it's got the floor pan of a Volkswagen Ghia, it's got the running gear of Volkswagen Beetle and the engine and all that, but it's designed to be kind of like an all-around, maybe off-road vehicle, and they're insanely capable. This particular version is what's called an Acapulco version, and the reason they call it is this blue and white paint job, that there was a hotel down in Mexico, I think the Princess Hotel, built some to look like this, and it was to take people to the beach and take them to the airport, and they had this really cool striped top on them, which this one doesn't have. And Volkswagen was so taken by that design that they decided to sell about 400 of these. Now, I don't think this is a real Acapulco, and people watching this might know better. I'd love to hear in the comments, but it certainly looks like one. But we're gonna find out if it is a real one at some point. After all, I am an automotive historian. So let's take a quicker look at my incredible wife's incredible Thing. Wait a second, that doesn't sound right. Now, let's take a good look at my Thing. Oh man, that doesn't sound any better. Here is the Type 181 Volkswagen. This I found in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and it was under a bunch of leaves and a bad cover, and the owner didn't want to sell it, and I bugged him for 2 years, and he finally got wise, sold it to me. He built into a bit of a hot rod. Matt, if you want to open up the hatch there. Everybody say hello to Mechanic Matt.
Hello, Mechanic Matt.
There we go. Now, normally these came with a 1600cc motor with a single carb on it. He put on, now these aren't dual carbs, these are throttle bodies. This is fuel injected, and it also is a 2100cc engine, and that's a significant increase. And it's got hydraulic lifters and a pretty sweet exhaust system and a crazy crank and cam on it. And it should be pretty powerful. Now, we haven't driven it yet. This thing hasn't driven in about 15 years. But we've gone through the whole thing, the brakes, the fuel system, everything to make it safe. My wife told me that I could get 2 cars without a permission. One was a Volkswagen Thing, and the other was a purple dune buggy. So when I found this, I got it. So let's take a look. There is the roll cage. These aren't stock, but that is there for the not dying. And it's got 6x9s, baby. Yeah. And then we got some speakers that we can turn around, face out when we're at the river with the dogs and rock out. We also, for safety, now this is not a whole lot of safety. There's not a whole lot of car here, but we want to increase the stopping power. So it has a set of Ghia front disc brakes. It came normally with drums, and we also have some KYB shocks and some nice Yokohama tires. Now, I want to show you one of my favorite features of the Type 181. You can drive with the windshield up or with the windshield down, just like an old Jeep with the bugs in your face and your teeth, and it's just great on the open road with the windshield down. And you can also drive around with the doors on or the doors off with your foot on the door jamb, just zooming around. Now, this is not totally safe. Don't get me wrong. This is just going to be a river car. It does have seat belts and a roll cage, but this is only like a sub 2,000 pound car. Not going to be out zooming across the country on the freeway. But I'm going to try to keep my family as safe as possible in this crazy river car. Now, they've got the doors off. We can take a good look at the interior of the Thing. So the Thing is a full 4-seater, which is really nice. Take everybody down to the river. Now, one of my favorite features are these wood slat floorboards, which are very, very thin. I've always enjoyed those. Now we got a ton of gauges on the dash just because this is a modified car. We got to keep track of all the crazy modifications. Now you might see down here that the pedals are missing. And the reason for that is we are working on those right now to update them. So let's take a look at what we're doing there. The pedals for the Thing. So what was wrong with the pedals? The original design of the accelerator pedal was really designed for just that single carburetor and one little cable. But when you start putting dual carbs on or throttle bodies, there's a lot more resistance, and these little pieces don't work too well. So what we got is this modification kit, which is a whole lot beefier. Now, you can see the difference was this initial arm here was just a single arm coming out of just the center there. And when it was being pushed by this pedal, it was being pushed diagonally and it would bend. And they would bend and then it wouldn't work right. This modification beefs it up a whole lot. And you've got two arms. So instead of single shear, we're in double shear there, which is always stronger. Much bigger wheel on it. Really great action on this. So we're hoping this kind of smooths out the use of those big throttle bodies. And then we've got the other pedals here. This is the brake and the clutch. There's the clutch there. But the modification is primarily getting rid of this. And it's really interesting because the Germans really are fantastic engineers. So this must have been the perfect engineering for what it was, but asking it to do any more than it did, it had a failure. So we've got this updated pedal, and we're gonna go see how that looks and how that works right now. As you can see, mechanic Matt did a marvelous job of putting the new pedal in. Doesn't look much different than stock, but the action is super smooth, and we're getting full throttle at the throttle bodies, and that is a fantastic modification for this vehicle. You know, it doesn't look like much. It's the things that don't look like anything that actually make the biggest difference in some of these old cars. So that's it for the Thing. Let's go see what's afoot with the Jaguar D-Type. We had a great time looking at the Jag in the last video, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it. I just want to update you on what we've been doing. If you come in close here, Matt, we'll take a look. Matt made these awesome wire separators. Now, back in the day, they had these circular ones, which I always thought were super trick, but they don't sell them, so we made them. That's what you do when you have an old car. The other thing is the linkage on these triple Webers was not working well. Jay was having issues with it, not being smooth. Now, linkage has to work at 90-degree angles, really, for things to work smoothly. And this particular linkage, this is the one that actually connects to the pedal down there, was at an angle. It was hitting the edge of the carburetor. So we made a new arm here for it. And we've got really nice vertical, straight up and down action. We've taken out a whole kink in there. And the other thing we did was we found out, you open up the carbs here and you can look inside and you can see the throttle opening, the butterfly in there. And when we were going to full throttle, it wasn't opening all the way. So we were looking to where it was not, where it was binding. And where it was binding was actually the pedal, this goes down straight to the pedal. This piece wasn't coming all the way out. So we had to readjust it. We actually moved this plate back about 1/4 of an inch, which gave us more throttle movement on the pedal, which opened up the butterflies. Now Jay goes from 80% throttle to 100% throttle, which is what everybody wants. So that was a nice quick fix. Now, we obviously got the rear end on, and you can see how amazing and beautiful it is on the car. And it went on pretty quickly, which looked a little like this. Now, this is the filler cap here. I think I showed it to you last time, but it wasn't attached. This is kind of a period big filler cap, but you'll see inside it actually has a locking modern gas cap hidden inside. And we made these really nice cork gaskets for it, so it looks nice and period. And if you come around the back, we've got the trunk starting to go together. You've got the spare tire back here. You've got the jack and everything else going on. Now, this usually has a little round trunk. The little round trunk is being painted right now and doing body work, because when we got it, it had this big honking license plate light and the license plate hanging off of it, and it shouldn't put all that stuff on the nice badonkadonk. So we cleaned all that up, our guys are taking care of it. They're cleaning it up. It'll be done soon. And we move the license plate down here out of the way because you don't want to see a license plate anyway. So that's nice and tight there. We've got these off because we're putting in LED lights. But other than that, oh, we also did something really cool. Follow me. This is the old oil pan. Now, this is an aluminum pan that's got some ribs underneath for air cooling. This hung below the car, incredibly low. And I mean low enough that this would be the first thing to make contact if anything went underneath the car. Your oil pan's not something you want to use as any kind of skid plate. So we couldn't raise the engine up. So the idea was to make a lower oil pan. And that's what we've done. We've gotten an oil pan. This is actually from a Mark II, and it's much lower. So we got about another inch of clearance. We don't lose a whole lot of oil capacity. There's still about 9 quarts in this thing. But this, the benefit is it's steel. And anything hits this, it's gonna dent it or just bounce off. The aluminum oil pan would shatter. And the last thing you want is a shattered oil pan, oil everywhere and your engine draining out. We don't want Jay to be stranded on the side of the road staring at a bunch of broken aluminum. So we'll probably build a skid plate for that at some point just to make sure. But bringing that up out of the way was of huge importance, especially since this is not a race car. This is going to be a street car. He's going to take it touring. We want to make sure that it is completely safe and that it doesn't, hurt itself. But that's about it for the Jag right now. We're going to get the front end on really soon, and we're going to take it out for its first real test drives in a while. It is running right now. And then we'll be able to fine-tune the suspension, and I'll take you for a ride. That's going to be completely awesome. All right, now on to the last car in the garage, the Bahama Mama. Everybody loves the Bahama Mama, and it's almost ready to go back to Kelly Telfer. We've got a couple little things to finish, and then he is off for the summer touring around in his amazing short wheelbase. But I want to show you a couple things we've done since the last video. We're going to come into the interior. But real quick, we have these seats. You're not going to see a whole lot of period sports seats. Most of these have the very flat seats in them. These are made by Recaro for Porsche. These were restored by Autobahn Interiors, and they're phenomenal to look at. They're fantastic to sit in. And they cost about like 25 grand now to get a pair of them. They're so rare. But this car, on its car decks, said it came with these seats. So we made sure those seats were in it. But aside from the $20,000 seats, it's the $40 speakers that I'm proud of. Because when he brought the car in, there were some unoriginal things. Like these horrendous 1980s Pioneer speakers in all their silver and black glory on this beautiful door card. Now, they cut the door card to put them in. There's nothing we can do about that. There's a hole in it now. It's either replace the door card or do something else. I decided to do something else. I found these awesome grills and speakers that blend in beautifully. They're low profile. They blend in with the door. They have the same kind of little dot pattern. And Mechanic Matt actually painted the tweeters black so it all blends in. And really, the door card looks kind of uniform now. It's not a perfect fix, but I love the way it looks. It solves an issue without having to redo the original door card. So the original door card still in the car. Now, we got the engine and transmission back in. Remember, Jerry Woods was the one doing the transmission. The transmission, according to the car decks, was a 5-speed transmission. What was in the car was a 4-speed transmission. Now, this is interesting. People are very numbers matchy about cars, and that's a good thing to be. But what happened in the day is that if they had 5-speed and 4-speed cars on the lot, dealers would go, oh, somebody would buy a car, but they're like, you know what, I want a 5-speed in that car. So they take the 5-speed out of one car and put it in the other, take the 4-speed of that car and put it back because you were just making a car you could sell. Odds are this car's transmission, original 5-speed transmission, was swapped out when it was brand new, as far as we can tell. So Jerry Woods, being the expert he is, took that 4-speed box and added a 5th gear because they're the same box. So it is now a 5-speed in accordance with its car decks. Another cool thing in here that you should see is, and this is super rare, is an air pump. This was a California car, and I know it's strange. It's 1968, right? You don't think they would have this stuff back then, but this was an original air pump, and we've left it in there. We've disconnected it, but that you very rarely will ever see on an old 911. Again, a super original car. Now, the final piece of the puzzle was getting the right wheels and tires for the car. This is what were on the car when it was purchased, but they're not correct, and I'll show you why. First, this is a modern Pirelli tire, but the wheel itself is incorrect. This is a Porsche Fuchs wheel, but if you look down in here, you can see the date code, and that is 774, which is July of 1974. That is way past when this car was built. So this is not the correct wheel that would have been on the car when it was new. Kelly did a magnificent job of sourcing a full set of correct wheels, and they were redone by the master, Harvey Weidman. Now, he is the guy, if you want to win a concourse, this is who you send the wheels to. I hope you can see how just utterly beautiful this is. Now, here's the important part. This wheel was made in March of 1968. That means when this car was new, it was built in May of 1968, this would have been the wheel sitting on the shelf you would have put on the car just a month or two before it was made. Now, this isn't the wheel that came on the car, but it's the correct wheel for the car. It's as close as we're going to get. Now, what we put on this is the correct tire. Now, this is a Pirelli CN36. Now, it's not a tire from 1968. It's a modern tire that Pirelli is now making their vintage tires once again. This is made with a modern compound of rubber, and it's a radial tire, but it looks just like the vintage tire. It's got the original tread, and you'll see that compared to the modern tire, what's interesting, these are both 185s, but you can see how much wider the modern tire is compared to the vintage tire. There's a lot more going on here. Now, the disadvantage of running a modern tire like this on an older car is if the car is stock, which this car is, and it's got the stock shocks and stock suspension, stock torsion bars, that it wasn't built for this tire. The engineers in 1968 didn't even know this tire existed. This is the tire the car was designed around. If you want to go drive the car the way it was driven originally, then you get a nice original narrow tire, and you can get this little short wheelbase rotating in corners and four-wheel drifts all day long. When you get a bigger, stickier tire like this, that suspension gets overwhelmed, and you've got to get bigger shocks on it, and you got to go bigger sway bars and things like this. You're chasing the performance. But putting the original on here, Kelly is going to have the best time driving around on these original tires. It's kind of the opposite thinking. Like, everybody goes, oh, I gotta put on big, wide, low profiles. Old cars, old tires. So that's it for our second visit to the garage here at Wingnut Manor. We've taken a look at the Bahama Mama and the D-Type and the Thing. And if you really enjoyed these videos, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell your friends. We're building this channel. It's going great. I love the community that we're building, and I love that you're a part of it. So have yourself a great day, get your car geek on, and we're gonna go take the Thing for its first spin in 15 years.